Where's Perry? Part 2. What? No, more like Finding Perry the Platypus. Part 2. Oh my god. This episode from Phineas and Ferb sucks. Here are the reasons why I hate this episode in my opinion. This episode starts. The second part opens at Chez Afrique, the mountaintop restaurant where Linda and Lawrence are sitting on a couch. Having known they waited 30 years for the reservation to be fulfilled, the Matilda registered trainee walks over and tells them that their reservation was made in the Fletcher Flynn name by mistake. Relieved, they follow him in. At the OWCA headquarters, the evil Carl nags Doofenshmirtz about blasting Perry with all of his innators at once, preventing him from being able to use Agent P's paw print to unlock the computer. Doofenshmirtz tries to figure out how Perry disappeared but admitted he was clueless, with Major Monogram still in his jail cell. Carl uses his scientific equipment and the process of elimination, and decides that it was the go-hominator that zapped the now-missing agent. Carl takes an OWCA plane and his evil robots, scanning each with a metal detector. While scanning the evil Lawrence robot, a pineapple gets no response, and Carl rejects it as the plane heads for the Flynn Fletcher house. As Carl left, Doofenshmirtz laughs about Monogram about Carl calling him Monogrampa. Monogram tells him that he was just using him, and Doofenshmirtz won't believe it when Monogram point out that he was left behind. Back in Africa, Candace is hanging by the top of a high tree holding an old-fashioned radio telephone, believing that Jeremy broke up with her. Suddenly, the top bough breaks, and she falls down crashing into branches until she hits the ground. She checks on a monkey she met to see if it was okay, but is crying about losing her boyfriend, among other things, and decides after she says that she's out, peace, go native, and runs away with her new primate pal. At the same time, high on a cliff, Phineas, Ferb, Baljeet, Buford and Isabella are now holding onto some jungle vines. Isabella, Buford, and Baljeet are panicking, asking Phineas for help. Phineas sees his Perry beneath them and says that they need to get down. Suddenly, the vines begin to break and Phineas swings around, grabbing Ferb, Isabella, and Baljeet, but leaving Buford falling accidentally. Baljeet tosses another vine at Buford, who grabs it, and they climb down to where Perry and their highly unconventional vehicle were. Meanwhile, in Danville, Carl and the Flynn Fletcher robots break into the Flynn Fletcher house while Grandpa Clyde is asleep on a chair. As the robots start scanning the house for Perry, the Candace robot walks into her doppelganger's room and looks at a picture of Jeremy. The answering machine on the phone delivers a message from Jeremy, and he is about to say what he was trying to tell Candace before. Carl was frustration realizing Perry is not there. Isabella, Buford, and Baljeet start to think how can Perry be in Africa, but Phineas tells them that he saw him and decides to find Perry. As Ferb, Isabella, Buford, and Baljeet follows him, Perry sees them while hiding in the bushes but gets a message on his watch. Carl, who notices some rare flowers in the bush near Perry, as soon as Perry realizes it will give away his location, he rips off the watch. Carl then identifies the flower using his equipment and finds out it is only found in uncharted regions in Africa. He takes the robots to the plane, and they take off for the location for Carl, gloating that once he gets the paw print of Perry, he can take over the OWCA then the tri-state area with extra credit. Back at the OWCA, Doofenshmirtz is saddened that Carl used and abandoned him. Major Monogram snaps him out of it, and tells him they have to stop Carl and save Agent P. Doofenshmirtz tells him that with Perry out of the way, he can finally take over the tri-state area. Major Monogram tells him that Carl will take over it first, and Doofenshmirtz slowly realizes it and screams. He decides to take out the key and free Major Monogram. They take Major Monogram's spare jet and use a GPS tracker to fly to Africa and stop Carl. As for Candace, she's sad with everything left behind but is happy to live with monkeys. Even though it's a little strange, she starts to get used to live with them, and at the end, she talks about the sunset in monkey language, while one of the monkeys says he's seen better. Back to Phineas and the gang. Phineas is still tracking down Perry's footprints, but Isabella says they should head back. Phineas is upset and does not want to stop looking for Perry, as he's more than just a pet. a friend. Baljeet reminds him that they are in Africa, but Ferb tells that Phineas has even been wrong before. Phineas sees Perry's footprints, and starts tracking him down again. Buford believes it's just hit duck, though. Perry runs off, but he is stopped by a bunch of wild animals that surround him. Carl finally arrives in Africa and ordered his robots to start tracking down Perry. Monogram and Doofenshmirtz on their way to Carl. Doofenshmirtz starts building a new emitter by using the parts in the plane that causes a short malfunction on the plane, and if there are any lifeboats that Monogram reminds him that are on a plane. Carl sees the kids and decides to follow them to get to Perry. The Candace robot continues its search for Perry but finds her doppelganger, the currency danger, acting like a primitive monkey and wears a jungle outfit. When the robot Candace says Candace loves Jeremy, Candace runs away. Meanwhile, Buford and Baljeet are still arguing around brains and brawn is better to survive in Africa while tracking Perry. Phineas lost his tracks and Isabella sees some grubs since Perry's favorite food while mentioning Ferb likes haggis, and Isabella wonders how can she get her grub-eating patch. Phineas sees Perry's fur that sees heading that direction and continues to track him. Monogram tries to maintain control of the plane since Doofenshmirtz taking important part to build the regenerator and worries that might crash land the plane. The kids follow Perry to a river, and sees Perry on the other side and run toward a cave. The kids follow him by crossing the log over the river, but Carl ordered the robot Lawrence to fire the log that the kid falls into the river, and Perry returns when he heard their scream. Carl appears and tells that did it to lure him out and he was evil. Perry sees Carl made more robot versions of Vanessa, Monogram, Doofenshmirtz, Norm, Buford, Isabella, Baljeet, Clyde and Irving that he had free time to make them. Perry then whistles to call a bunch of wild animals and now wearing fedoras that Perry made them new recruits. Carl ordered all of his robots to attack while Perry and the rest of the animals charge into battle. Meanwhile, the kid's still floating in the river and swims toward the rapids. Phineas tells them to get behind him to slide toward the branch and then catapults them out of the water and landed on a quicksand that Baljeet states that it was lucky that it cushioned their fall. During the fight, Perry sees Monogram and Doofenshmirtz crash-landed their plane in the middle of the fight. Doofenshmirtz tells Monogram they survived the crash and one day looks back at this moment, but Monogram tells him that one day he will drive to his house and punch him. Candace saves a fellow monkey in danger and also joins with the animals in the fight. Monogram asks Doofenshmirtz if the regenerator was ready, but Doofenshmirtz tells him that he still needs more parts. That Monogram joins the fight and rips some parts of the robots to help Doofenshmirtz finishing building it. Candace still fighting the robots until the robot Phineas has her in the corner and was about to blast her, but the robot Candace sacrifices herself to save Candace and destroys the robot Phineas. Candace asks why her robot doppelganger the currency danger saved that. The robot replied that she didn't have a robot Jeremy and played the recorded message from Jeremy. It reveals that Jeremy tries to call her but the signal keeps breaking up. He also apologizes for not getting to the airport and got caught up with his band for making a new song just for her and waiting to call from her and misses her too. Candace realizes that Jeremy didn't break up with her and the robot doppelganger the currency danger tells her to call him and gives her a new cell phone before shutting down. Candace thanks her robot doppelganger the currency danger and calls Jeremy and apologizes to Jeremy that she tries calling him from a tree to get some cell service. Phineas asks if Isabella she knows her to get out for a quicksand in the Fireside Girls manual, that Isabella flatly tells him that she knows if she sees it. Buford calls them that he's on a ledge that he should come down, that Baljeet tells him not to but to throw a vine. Buford was about to the whole vine but Baljeet tells him to throw one end of the vine. That he wonders if he's wrong or it was Buford. Phineas tells Buford to put but Buford was pulling something else. That Phineas tells him to pull the vine and tells Baljeet it's Buford. As Buford them up, Baljeet's pants fell down due to the quicksand that Buford tells him he was going to do to him later when they leave the place. Meanwhile, Doofenshmirtz almost finishes the inhibitor but needs a small piece of tape and finds one by taking the mustache of the robot Monogram while fighting his doppelganger the Currencynger. Monogram tells Doofenshmirtz to fight it to Carl but has a problem that the inhibitor is mounted to the ship and can't turn it and was pointed to an X-shaped rock. Monogram tells Perry to lure Carl to the X-shaped rock to get him shot by the Regodinator and admitting he wears a leotard under his uniform. Perry manages to lure Carl by showing his paw that he wanted for the codes. Carl follows him X-shaped rock to the X-shaped rock but Carl sees through to the plan and stops pulling Perry. Perry tells Doofenshmirtz to fire but Monogram stays out of range. When Doofenshmirtz fires Regodinator that Perry uses a picture frame of Phineas and Ferb to reflect the ray and hits Carl. Monogram checks up on Carl and sees that he's back to being good. Monogram was happy and then ordered Carl to clean up the robot parts. Then Monogram tells him that he was a great help to him, that he decided to promote him to paid interim even though he will never get paid and it's just the title. Monogram then congratulates Perry and tells him to join him back to the plane to leave but hears Phineas calling for Perry. Monogram decides to let him go and have earned it that Perry quickly goes to them. Monogram tells Carl that they should leave immediately and use the giant magnet on the plane to put up all the destroyed parts of the robots and Doofenshmirtz asks if he can get a ride back home with them that Monogram allows him but might end up in prison that Doofenshmirtz thinks he's joking. As the kids climb up the mountain, they see Perry and was happy to finally found him and sees Candace still wearing her jungle outfit that Phineas thinks she embraces Africa and wonders how they gonna go back that Candace handles it by making a Tarzan-like call that summons two elephants and Perry tells one of the elephants to take off his fedora. The kids and Candace rides the elephant and starts heading back to the campsite. Meanwhile, Carl wonders why Perry ended up in Africa since he was hit by the Go-Hominator that Monogram tells him that home is where the heart is and that his heart is to be with his family. They later felt a small shock in the plane that Monogram tells Doofenshmirtz to not touch anything but he tells them that he didn't. At the campsite, the Flynn Fletcher and their friends see the sunset and find Africa amazing. Phineas asks his parents about what happened in the Shea Afrique that they stayed nothing special had happened there. Baljeet tells Buford that it takes brains and brawn to survive in Africa that Buford agrees and takes his s'more. Isabella asks what in the s'more that Ignatius tells her that he adds his secret ingredient, grubs. Isabella was happy to able to eat grubs and thank Africa. Phineas asks Ignatius if he can have some grubs for Perry that Ignatius never studied a platypus before finds it interesting that Perry manages to follow them all the way from Africa. Ferb states that even George Shaw wrote the description of the platypus, and that platypus is a unique creature has become synonymous with the word impossible. Candace was surprised that they all satisfied with that answer. As everyone decides to go to bed, leaving Candace telling them that how a platypus crosses the Atlantic Ocean and ended up in a vast continent of Africa and never wonders to have a longer discussion. Phineas and Buford tells her to go to sleep and will make sense tomorrow and Candace still laments that no one is with her in this discussion. And that's how the episode goes. I don't know who likes this episode, so I'm just going to leave it be. Who hates this episode? Mr. Krabs. He hates this episode, so screw Where's Perry, Part 2, and screw Attack of the 50-Foot Sister. Suddenly Susie is
99996969739291199969697999694895999969779999696321000099990 times better than Where's Perry, Part 2. End of rant.